Good morning. My name is Cindy Swaskepers. Yeah, the spokesperson of the ANC Youth League. I'm going to just start by introducing the officials here before you. I'll begin right here, the side, with the second DSG, Comrade Venus Blenis Machache, Comrade Zama Kanyase, the first DSG, the SG, Comrade Tsakani Chiviti, the SG, Comrade Tsakani Chiviti, the TG, Comrade Jacob Tau, the Deputy President, Comrade Francisco Janji, Comrade President Colin Malachi. We also apologize for starting late, 7 minutes late, behind schedule. We are just going to start and give the President the podium to begin the session. Thank you.
This thing of Metro Cape that I borrowed here. Okay. Thank you very much, spokesperson. Thank you to the members of the media who came to listen to our first NEC statement, post our NEC meeting. The African National Congress Youth League convened its first National Executive Committee meeting on the 27th of the 27th term on the 31st of January 2026 in Mpumalanga, Mbombela. This NEC meeting formally marked the beginning of work of the newly elected leadership collectively following the successful 27th National Conference that was held in Polokwane. This NEC meeting was robust and militant and politically sharp and characterized by frank engagements, organizational consolidation, and a resolute recommitment to rebuilding the ANC Youth League as a disciplined, active, militant youth organization. We reaffirm our historic duty to the root of the youth family in the struggle of young people and the working class, and remain loyal to historic mission, values, and programs of the African National Congress as a leader of society. The NEC met at a time of a profound global instability and transition. The global order is shifting in many instances, rupturing the imperial center, increasingly restoring the open confrontation of global trade relations are being reconfigured and externally shocked by accelerating structural changes and global politics has become the decisive terrain of struggle. In this moment, naturality is not an option, but progressive forces must choose a side. In a world of consistent, including the rapid rise of artificial intelligence and technological disruption, the pressure to innovate and transform is immense. The rule of the game is continuously rewritten. This is a reality that demands that South African position itself decisively, truly inclusive society that leaves no young person behind. The ANC Youth League NEC therefore calls on the ANC to decisively reclaim its historic role as a leader of society and a genuine movement of the people, not a passive manager of neoliberal decline. The democratic state must intervene boldly in the economy to drive industrialization, job creation, and inclusive growth. The ANC Youth League is unequivocally called on South Africans rail infrastructure to be urgently upgraded to a global competitive, but under no circumstances must be privatized. Rail infrastructure is a strategic national and security asset. We reject without compromise any attempt to privatize or commodify state-owned infrastructure. Instead, the democratic state must mobilize developmental finance, including borrowing from the BRICS and New Developmental Bank, to modernize and expand rail infrastructure in the increase of the national development and economic sovereignty. We repeat, no to privatization of rail infrastructure. The state of young people. The NEC resolved to comprehensive political, economy, and organizational performance overview, focusing on the lived realities of young people in South Africa, the struggle of the youth and society in general. The NEC reaffirmed that youth unemployment has reached a crisis point and once again declared unemployment a national disaster, calling for the government to also do the same as it continues to rob millions of young people of dignity and hope and meaningful participation in the economy. More than 43.2% of young people are not in employment, education, or training in 2024. They are living without hope, and we are losing them into drugs and crime. The NEC emphasized that unemployment cannot be treated as a normal economic challenge, but as an emergency required urgent, coordinated state-owned intervention. South Africa is faced with many challenges, which all of them are a priority to deal with. The NEC has identified these issues as immediate need for attention to deal with. Accelerated industrial implementation, localization of the economy, expansion of public and community employment programs, decisive support of youth-owned and youth-led enterprises. The NEC further noted with grave concern the rise of level of crime and substance abuse, particularly in the working class and township and rural communities. The NEC resolved that drugs and alcohol abuse became a major driver of crime, social instability, family breakdown, and the disruption of young lives. Psychologically, sociologically, and economically, is a well-spread availability of drugs, including in around schools and communities, pose a serious threat to the future of the youth. For instance, South Africa spends more than $1 billion a day on alcohol. South Africans spend more than $1 billion a day in alcohol in December 2025. The NEC resolved that the Youth League must intensify a community-based activism against substance abuse, working with communities, parents, schools, progressive civic society, law enforcement agencies to confront drug trafficking, shut down drug dens, and promote prevention and rehabilitation and support for affected young people. The NEC condemned in the strongest terms the continued prevalence of gender-based violence and femicide, which remains a national crisis, disproportionately affecting young women and children. The NEC reaffirmed that gender GBV is rooted in patriarchy, inequality, economic exclusion, social decay, and committed to the organization to sustain political education and community mobilization and advocacy for accountability and justice. The Year of the Youth. The NEC noted that 2026 marked the 50th anniversary of historic 1976 uprising, a defining moment in the struggle against apartheid, which young people were confronted with, an unjust system and altered course of South African history. The legacy of June 16 places a historic responsibility on the African National Congress Youth League to remain in the forefront of struggle against and struggle and activism and progressive change. The NEC further noted that 2026 also marked 30 years anniversary of South African Constitution, a progressive document born out of sacrifices, a struggle and mass participation. Through the Constitution guaranteed rights and freedoms and the lived realities of many people in South Africa, including unemployment, poverty, inequality, crime, and democratic, that are urgently need to advance sustained realization of the constitutional and socio-economic rights. In this context, the NEC reaffirmed the declaration of 2026 as the year of the youth and economic emancipation. The declaration signals a renewed focus on youth-centered struggle programs and campaigns aimed at addressing unemployment and access to education and economic exclusion and social change. The NEC, the Year of the Youth and Economic Emancipation will be characterized by intensified political education, community activism, mass mobilization, and sustained engagement to ensure that the concerned young people are placed in the center of the national priorities on the issue of the economy. The National Executive Committee of the Youth League reaffirmed the long-standing principled position that South African economy must fundamentally be restructured to serve the interests of the working class and the youth and the women in particular. The current economic structure is a colonial, exclusionary, and anti-poor. Today, the richest 10% of the population earns over 60% of the national income and controls more than 96% of the wealth, while millions of young people remain unemployed, landless, and economically marginalized. The Youth League condemns the continuous imposition of neoliberal macroeconomic policies driven by Treasury, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and Department of Employment and Labor. These institutions continue to push labor flexibility to deregularization and privatization, which undermines workers' rights, weaken the developmental state, and surrender South African sovereignty to capital. The strategy represents a clear threat of the Freedom Charter and ANC resolution. The NEC notes with concern that Africa possesses more than 35% of its wealth critical minerals, while South Africa controls over 85% of global platinum group metals as a well-significant deposit of chrome and many other minerals. Yet South Africa remains a primary exporter of raw minerals with little to beneficiation capacity. Our chrome and platinum group metals and other are exported as raw form, mainly to China, while alone we've recently exported, South Africa has exported more than 30%, more than 30 billion of those important minerals. The ANC Youth League therefore calls for the immediate implementation of export quotas, where at least 70% of raw mineral resources are beneficiated locally, only 30% must be exported. The Minister of Mineral, together with the Minister of Transport and Energy and Electricity and Water and Sanitation and DTIC, must lead a coordinated state engagement, particularly with China, to establish a processing, smelting, refining hubs in South Africa to create the creating of jobs and industrial capacity for the youth. The ANC Youth League advanced a clear alternative legalization and regulation of artisanal mining, as Ghana have already generated over 50 billion through its regulated artisanal mining. The ANC Youth League, NEC, reject the so-called growth and inclusive strategy called GAIN, crafted by the Minister of Finance and Trade, Industry and Competition. GAIN is nothing more than just a Gear 2.0, a recycled conservative economic framework that undermines the resolutions of the ANC and the ANC Youth League. It lacks ambition to reindustrialize the economy and instead prioritizes private sector participation in strategic public infrastructure such as water, rail, ports, while it promotes labor regulation to create casualties in the workplace. We therefore call on the ANC to reject the GAIN in its entirety and implement ANC resolution. The ANC prescribes prescribes of elite foreign policy labs, rating agencies and neoliberal economies embedded within the national treasury. South African unemployment crisis will persist as long as the economic growth is stagnant at 0.8% for the past 10 years. The fiscal policy remain depoliticized, and monetary policy is obsessed with inflation at the expense of job and development. The ANC Youth League will immediately zoom into the national treasury and the Minister of Finance to ensure that the planning and the budgeting and the fiscal alignment of the national development priority is not dictated by IMF and World Banks, who urgently call for the nationalization of the Reserve Bank as a resolution of the ANC. We further affirm the position that spaza shops, township economies must be owned and controlled by only South Africans. These are central to rebuilding local economies, protecting livelihoods, and ensuring that the wealth circulates within the working class and communities. The ANC Youth League condemns the failures of the Department of Home Affairs and Police to decisively enforce migration laws and business and labor laws. The unchecked operation of undocumented businesses undermines local entrepreneurs, fuels economic instability in townships. On education, student debts, and youth development, the NEC reaffirms its long-standing demand for free, quality, accessible education at all levels, including TVET colleges and universities, as a cornerstone of youth development and economic transformation. The Youth League calls for funding of community education centers and all community development skills initiative. The streamline and strengthen the skill development resolution of the 70% of SETA budget must be allocated to the NYDA as the champion of the youth development in South Africa, given the fact that they can cater for 60% of South African youth population. The NEC further resolved that historic student debts in higher education must be scrapped. The NEC note that the student debt continues to exclude thousands of young people from graduating and accessing their certificates and further their studies and participate meaningfully in the economy. The NEC reaffirmed that education cannot be a privilege for the world, but young people should be punished for poverty. Therefore, the Youth League, with the PYA structures, will be marching to the Department of Higher Education to demand free quality education for all. We further resolve that the National Youth Development Agency budget must be increased to to expand youth employment, entrepreneurs, mentorship and skill development programs. On health, sanitation and water crisis. The NEC expressed deep concern over the deterioration of the state of the public health, sanitation and access to basic services, particularly in working class and rural areas. The NEC further expressed serious concern over the deepening water crisis affecting our communities across the country. We also know that water shortages have become a persistent reality for millions of households, schools, clinics, and small businesses. The ANC government needs to fix these issues urgently. The NEC raised a serious concern about the growing resilience on water tankers as a long-term solution. While acknowledging that water tankers may provide temporary relief, the NEC stressed that they are costly and vulnerable to corruption and unsustainable. The NEC called on government to urgently invest in long-term water infrastructure, maintenance, and sustainable water management solutions to ensure that there's water security for all. We believe that water tankers are sustained by corrupt people as they fuel the sabotaging of water infrastructure to benefit corrupt few at the expense of our people. On local government and service delivery and the collapse of municipalities. The NEC expressed a deep concern about the continued collapse of local government and the failure of many municipalities to provide basic services. All the municipalities which have been collapsed and are non-functioning flagged by the Auditor General and the failure to deliver on infrastructure, water project, municipal managers and mayors must be fired with immediate effect. All the municipalities that were flagged by the AG on failure to deliver on infrastructure and water project in municipalities, all municipal managers and mayors from those municipalities must be fired with immediate effect. KwaZulu-Natal is the worst. There is no water, roads, but the municipality continues to return money to National Treasury. Fire those useless mayors and municipal managers from all of those municipalities. For example, Umhlu Tuzi municipality and one of the municipalities in Mzala and KZN have totally collapsed under the IFP. In response, the NEC has issued a clear call for young people to actively participate in local government by contesting all wards in the upcoming local government elections. On illegal migrants and rule of law and the protection of jobs. The NEC deliberated on challenges posed by illegal migrants and its impact on employment and service delivery and community stability. The NEC reaffirmed that South Africa sovereignty state is a sovereign state governed by laws, and that the laws must be enforced consistently and fairly. We emphasize that while South Africa respects human rights, dignity, and international obligation, illegal immigration undermines the rule of law, places pressure on public services, Western competition for scarce jobs, particularly in the context of deepening unemployment crisis. We call on government to strengthen border management capacity. The Department of Home Affairs decisively act against corrupts who enable illegal migrants, while further we call for strict enforcement on law labours and decisive action against employers who exploit undocumented foreign nationals to cut wages and bypass labour standards. The NEC rejects all forms of vigilantism and xenophobic violence, stressing that the challenges must be addressed through the law. In human orderly process while unapologetically defend the interests of South African youth. At the same time, the Youth League calls on the strengthening of the Border Management Authority. Currently they use 90% of their budget, it goes to salaries, and 10% goes to operation. We call on the reforms of the Border Management Authority. It is irresponsible to leave our borders naked. From where we are, we do not know how many foreign nationals are in South Africa. We call on the National Treasury to put more money on the Border Management Authority, on international solidarity and anti-imperialism. The NEC expressed unwavering support for the sovereignty of territorial integrity and self-determination of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. It condemned the acts of foreign interventions, the kidnapping of the president. This violates the international law and undermines the national independence. We are going to take action against such, including marching to the Constitutional Hill against imperialism agenda. The NEC reaffirmed that these international struggles are interconnected with the broader global struggle against imperialism, colonialism, and economic exploitation and gross violation of human rights. The Youth League remains committed to principles of solidarity, the global cooperation and progressive movements, and actively support the people resisting oppression around the world. On state, bank, and financial inclusion, the ANC Youth League has observed with great concern that South African banking sector remains firmly in the grips of powerful few, the big six cartels: ABSA, First Rand, Nedbank, Standard Bank, Investec, and Capitec, have consolidated their power control over 90% of total banking shares. This monopoly capital controls the home loans, cars, properties of our people, therefore influence access to fundamental necessities of food, clothes, and education. We know that in 2018, the National Treasury, under the instruction of then former minister, the late Tete Mboweni, was mandated to establish a state bank. To this day, no progress has been reported. The ANC Youth League will therefore have to request an explanation from the Minister of Finance, Kondongwayo, and Deputy Minister David Masondo as to why they have diverted from the critical resolutions of the ANC. In reaffirming our commitment to economic transformation, the NEC has made it clear that Post Bank must remain a fully owned state-owned entity. That mandate is driven by financial inclusion and support for youth-owned enterprises, cooperatives, and small businesses, and encourages a culture of saving amongst our people. The NEC has warned against any attempt of privatization or delusion of state control, which would sabotage the Post Bank as a developmental mission. Therefore, we demand that government institutions such as SASSA, NEFSAS, along with the salaries of all government employees, be processed through the Post Bank. These are necessary steps to empower our state-owned institutions and break the stranglehold of monopoly capital on the lives of ordinary people of South Africa. On the organizational renewal and discipline. The ANC Youth League warns that between now and November 2026, failure to decisively intensify the work of renewal will result in a strategic displacement of the ANC from political power. The renewal cannot be treated as a slogan. It must be a program of action. We need a radical overhauling of ANC membership, the reaffirmation of the founding principles of the ANC of non-racial practice, the cultivation of progressive middle class and working class professionals, decisive and principled engagement on the question of foreign nationals, the war against corruption, the war against gender-based violence, the war against unemployment. We must be at the center of the renewal project. The NEC has further called on the ANC to return to building a unity of purpose. The Youth League emphasizes that unity without purpose is meaningless and counter-revolution. For over 3 decades, the ANC remained the only organization capable of holding together divisive ethnic and racial forces under a common national democratic revolution. The historic role must be defended and depend on renewal and through decisive leadership and revolutionary action. And if the current leadership is failing, we will take over ourselves because we care about this country. On elections of the National Working Committee post the NEC, the 27th National Congress stands to be the most inclusive and representative Congress in the history of the African National Congress Youth League, both in form and content. It reflects a militarily committed and non-racial inclusivity and revolutionary unity. The leadership collective elected by the Congress is deliberately diversified and incorporating young people with disability, Young people with disability are represented from different racial groups, they also have representation, and progressive elements of traditional leaders united under a banner of the National Democratic Revolution. With this constitution of the Youth League, the National Executive Committee has duly elected the working committee members as engineered and commanded and controlled, trusted by providing political leadership and organizational discipline and decisive strategy to direct the work of the organization in the period of the NEC. The officials, all of them, are automatically in the NWC. It elected Comrade Andisiwe, Comrade Anisha, Comrade Dando, Comrade Tabo, Comrade Wandile, Comrade Abraham, Comrade Faith, Comrade Sindiswa, Comrade Millicent. Then we further appointed permanent invitees. The following subcommittees will be permanent invitees in the working committee, which will be led by the following comrades deployed: drafting and data analytics, Comrade Ashley; elections and war room, Comrade Melissa; presidency, Comrade Apiwe; communication, Comrade Cindy; organizing, Comrade Tabo. Then we went further to co-opt. Comrade Cindy was appointed as a national spokesperson. And then we went further to co-opt Comrade Kamugelo Nkosi, who's the current president of COSAS. Then we also co-opted Comrade Angelita. Venus will pronounce the surname later. Then we conclude, in our conclusion, the first NEC meeting of the 27th term marked a decisive step in the rebuilding of the African National Congress Youth League as a militant, disciplined, mass-based youth organization. The NEC calls on ANC Youth League structures and members and young people to unite behind the collective leadership and intensify the struggle that advances the interest of the youth and the working class. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President, for that statement. We are going to take the first round of hands. Yeah, we'll take questions now. We've noted you, noted, 3. Okay. So we've got three hands for the first round.
I just need to get comment on the arrest of an ANC Youth League member. I think he served in the previous ANC, Thelma Mative, who is also the CEO of the Johannesburg Telecommunications and the CEO of Joshua. What do you make of his arrest and the allegations that he was found with millions of rands in his home and that he's employed in procurement irregularities in the city of Johannesburg? Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Boleko from the Sunday Times. In the last local government elections in 2021, we saw a popular slogan called Mochapalo, where the Youth League was calling for greater representation of young people in the fielding of ward councils. Will we be seeing a similar campaign ahead of these upcoming local government elections now in 2026? Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was the first set. The president. Or must we take the last one?
Round.
Yeah.
Oh, the next round.
Yeah.
Yes, no, yeah.
You can take them all, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Jessica, you may.
Thank you. It's Natasha.
Natasha.
Just to pick up on where Siamtana actually left off, could I
Journal News. It's a newspaper in the Free State, Northwest and Northern Cape. My first question would be about the firing of municipal managers and mayors. There are 7 municipalities in the Free State that were flagged by the AG. And now the ANC has been calling for those mayors and those MMs to be removed from their positions. And this is not happening. And today you are saying they must be removed. So now I want to know what is the ANC Youth League's stand on this. What are you going to do about it? And secondly, President, you have been moving with the SG, the ANC SG, Fikile Mbalula a lot, you know, to different occasions. I would like to find out if the ANC Youth League is supporting the motion of Fikile Mbalula being the next ANC president. Thank you.
There's a last hand there behind.
Good morning, President. Again, Saki from the Gauteng Times. I want to know about imperialism. You were at the January 8 celebrations in Johannesburg, and you further mentioned and elaborated a lot on imperialism, especially the fact that, you know, white imperialism is quite taking over. How do you then, as the ANC use it to infiltrate white imperialism and actually get rid of this nation? Then you spoke about the Big Six cartel. You know, states have shown predominantly black communities are the ones that are suffering the most in accordance to gain. How do you plan as the ANC to actually reach out? The municipal managers, do you have a target market for lack of better word? Like, do you know who you have in mind to get rid of? And then lastly, excuse me if I did not hear correctly, but you mentioned overthrowing, perhaps if this should even be overthrowing the current leadership, which is quite hefty. But I mean, we've seen that nothing much has been done, especially for the youth, especially in regards to unemployment. What is your plan and your stance on this as the ANC? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take the last one.
Thank you so much. Beleid hier from Netwerk 24. Just 2 quick ones from me. This era of coalition politics that we are in, how do you see it? Do you see the ANC regaining support, or do you see it in a partnership? Because I'm hearing this position that you're taking, that sort of a majority position, if you can call it that. And then in terms of the township economies, I also heard that you have this very strong stance towards capital, but we also know government pockets are empty. So where's the money going to come from to stimulate these growth, especially in those township economies? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Spokes. I'll start with the last one. On the issue of, we are not contesting elections to be in partnership with anyone. We are contesting election as the ANC to be the only government so that we can fully implement our resolution and our manifesto without disturbance. Now, we're not going to these elections with the thinking that we must work with other people. We are going these elections to win these elections. On the issue of the reinvestment in the economy, look, the reality is that we have not been able to discipline capital over years. There is enough money that is in capital's hands that can be utilized to be reinvested into our communities and create enough opportunities. Now, it is not only the responsibility of government to do that work. Government must create an environment that allows that kind of environment and must be able to force capital to reinvest so that all those small businesses are able to operate, because the small business economy is very big in our township. We know very well that people wake up every day, go buy bread, cut their hair in the township. Now, it's a multi-billion economy. It can't be left in the hands of the foreigners. Government must do something to preserve that economy, to create employment for the youth and women of this country. On the issue of the state of disaster, when you declare disaster, it means that there's a serious problem. And as the Youth League, we've resolved that unemployment of youth is not a joke. If young people are on the streets, on drugs, they're doing crime, they've lost hope, That is the majority of the population of South Africa. A responsible government must immediately create war rooms, move around all budgets from all departments to resolve this issue of unemployment. It means it must redirect resources mainly to resolve the issue of unemployment of the youth. If it means that you create economic corridors, you create skill centers, everyone must be busy in this country. There must not be a young person who's roaming around the streets in South Africa. Every young person must be doing something in South Africa. It's either you're at school, or you're at a skill center, or you're at work, or you are running a small business in a township, fully funded by government, utilizing the war room resources that must be. Because the resources are there. If people are moving around money, taking it back to treasury, it means there's money. You can't be taking back money to treasury while there's high level of unemployment of youth in South Africa. Now, I was saying, President, the same way we treat the issue of gender-based violence as a disaster, is the same way we must treat the issue of unemployment of the youth. Now, it's a matter that can be resolved immediately. Yes, on the firing of mayors who are not performing, why do you keep them? You can go to local government with mayors that have failed our people. Even when Treasury tries to give them money, they fail to plan. We've always said that if you can't plan, you can't spend. Now, those mayors who are not spending, who are not delivering services, they can't plan. Now, they are not capacitated to be mayors of the African National Congress. Now, the ANC can't be harboring lazy mayors and municipal managers. Now, even those municipal managers are hired on performance, performance agreements. Now, if they're not meeting their performance agreements, they must be fired, because you can't be having a municipal manager who drives via a pothole and a split sweat towards the office every day. And I don't see any problem with that. That means we're having irresponsible municipal managers and managers at that level, because every time they go to work, they go via potholes. What makes them not worry about fixing that pothole? But every month they're getting paid on behalf of the people of South Africa, utilizing our taxpayers' money. Now, that one, we're very solid on it. We're saying that the ANC must urgently act on it, and failure to have to do everything in our power as the Youth League to make sure that it happens. On the issue of the water crisis in Johannesburg, it's a matter that it's urgent. The leadership of the ANC and its government, because the mayor here is the mayor of the ANC, must urgently go down there to explain to our people what's happening. We must not address our people via statements. Every time there's a crisis, the leadership of the ANC, local councillors, everyone must be able to call community meetings to address our people. Our people can't interact with their own government in the middle of a crisis via statements. They must be go down. We're calling upon the mayor and his mayoral committee to urgently address all of those matters. Everywhere else in the country where there's a crisis, the leadership must take charge and speak to the people and explain to them. Because no one will understand when they are paying levies, they are paying everything as far as Midrand. Where there's an infrastructure of water, they are told that they can't receive water on the basis that the water levels are low. You can't tell that to our people. You must be able to put means and make sure that that matter is resolved. Because we believe that such matters are informed by maladministration of those who are supposed to do that job who are not doing it. On the issue of the arrest of the former NEC member of the Youth League and the CEO of JDA and acting CEO of Josco, it's a matter that we will engage. We will formally, because it's still our member, we will formally request the SG to request the KDA to come forward and explain himself on what happened. Because so far, whatever we get are rumors. We don't have a report sitting with us on what really happens. But it will be unfortunate that a young, talented person like that, which the Youth League has invested in fully, is a clear product of investment of the Youth League, is arrested of such allegations. It will be a setback on the side of the ANC Youth League. And we want to get a proper explanation so that we find out what really happens and we'll be able to respond to the media as the Youth League on the matter. But we believe that the matter will be well explained when the member comes forward to explain to us. But so far, we only read from the media that there's such arrest. We don't know the arrest for what. There's no one who's explained to us on the matter. And the SG will reach out to the former NEC member so that we get that explanation. On the issue of the politics of Johannesburg, I will not want to speak much on that because the ANC NEC has spoken on the matter. But what we're calling upon here in Johannesburg is a political stability. We're under attack. We want the unity of the ANC and Johannesburg. There is no time to play around with police and jumping fence and acting up everywhere. What we must do here now, we must respect what the ANC has done, wait for the ANC to deliver a report. Then we fully make sure that we close rank to defend the African biggest city called Johannesburg. We can't afford Johannesburg to be under the leadership of a pensioner called Helen Zille because we're still fighting internal vacancies. We're saying that whoever is doing that, let's all close rank. we're calling upon the leadership of Johannesburg to urgently unite and close rank and make sure that the ANC is defended and its government so that we deliver the services to our people. On the issue of Johannesburg, I think that's how it can be resolved. On the issue of the Department of Higher Education, we are going mid-February. We're going to meet with the PYA. We're mobilizing one of our biggest marches because we're saying that no young person must be excluded from accessing education. The ANC government has promised the youth of the country that they'll open the doors of learning to all. Now, everyone must be able to access that education. And it's a problem of the Department of Education to make sure that everyone accesses it, whether it's online or it's in Tibet colleges or it's physical universities or in community centers or in skills program. Every young person must be active in education in South Africa. And no one must be left behind because of the background that they're from. Because the ANC has promised the people of South Africa that. Now, we're going to march to the Department of Education to remind the Minister of Education, of Higher Education, of that responsibility that no young person must be sent back on the basis that they don't have money to pay for registration or pay for school fees. Everyone must be accepted and be allowed to study. And no young person must be academically excluded on the basis that they own historic debt. All of them must be allowed to access and further their studies. And those that are blacklisted, they must immediately be out of that blacklisting and be allowed to go and participate in the economy, because it is not their choice that they are born in a country of high level of inequality. Because the ANC has promised them a country that they will fully participate in the economic activities of the country. Now, it is not their fault that they're excluded from that and their parents are victims of injustice of the past of apartheid, are victims of exploitation of capital. It's the job of the ANC-led government to protect them. Anything apart from that, that is selling out the revolution of our people. And we will not participate in, as the Youth League in a project to sell out the revolution of the people. And I was happy that NEFSAS has been moving very fast to make sure that they place young people, those who have applied for NEFSAS, receive funding. And those that have not received funding, they must still be given access for higher education. Now, we can allow a situation whereby people are excluded on those bases. We will not allow that. I think I've answered the issue of the lazy mayors and lack of performance. That one is clear. The ANC has a clear position on that, they must go. On the issue of leadership debate, the ANC has not opened a succession debate. The succession debate of the ANC will be opened after elections. We are now focusing on the elections to defend the base and regain the hegemony of the African National Congress. And there's nothing wrong with the president of the Youth League supporting programs of the ANC. I'm always with the president, but I'm not asked why am I always with the president. But when I'm with the SG of the ANC, I'm asked. I don't know that, according to the media, it's illegal that a president of the Youth League must go to a program addressed by an SG of the ANC. I've been with the deputy president of the ANC. I've been the president of the ANC. There's no official of the ANC we have not done a program with. We are always with them because those are leaders of the ANC. And the role of the Youth League is to mobilize the youth behind the pen of the African National Congress. And anyway, we're not cowards. When the time arrives, when the succession debate will be open, we'll be the first to speak out of our views because we are serious about taking over the ANC leadership. We are serious that the ANC must be directed by us because we believe that the only time there will be a practical change in South Africa, it is when ourselves, as the youth of this country, fully take charge of the African National Congress. Now, when that time comes, we'll fully participate and contest that Congress because it's our own constitutional right to do that. Now, don't worry, be patient. When the time comes, we'll do that as the ANC Youth League. And fearlessly so, we'll mobilize branches of the ANC to support the views that we support. On the issue of banks and cartels, the only way you can remove these cartels that exclude blacks in majority, who don't give loans, home loans or business loans to black businesses, the only time you get an approval from those banks is when you're applying for a car. But if you're applying for a business or a home loan, they can even take you 7 years for you to get access. But if you're a white male, white males will arrive today and get approval of the loan today because those banks were created mainly to assist the white males to continue to be drivers of the economy. Were not created to benefit the majority of South Africans. That's why we're calling upon a state-owned post bank because we know that a state-owned post bank will make sure that it's obsessed about inclusivity in the economy of the country and will fund mainly black youth, women-owned businesses because they understand that their disposition from the economic activities of the past due to the conditions created by apartheid that benefited these banks. Now, that's why even today we're very angry of people who are selling out that view. We believe that Treasury is deliberately sabotaging and conniving with these cartels, sabotaging the state-owned banks to benefit those that they are friends in the cartels. Now, we're saying that no one in the ANC must go out and speak on our behalf unless they're speaking resolutions of the African National Congress. If the Minister of Finance wants to speak his own views, must go and open his own political party. Here in the ANC, we want the Minister of Finance to tell us when, time and venue, and when will the Post Bank be able to be funded fully and be commercialized and registered as a state-owned bank. That is number one. Number two, we want all departments of government to tell us on which day and which hour they're going to move all their salaries and their budget to be run by the Post Bank. Those are the answers we want to know. We don't want to be told stories. We want to know, we want SASA to fully bank with Post Bank. We want everyone else to be able, who are utilizing state-owned resources, to do that, so that our people can also have confidence to bank with Post Bank. And that bank, I can tell you now, if we do that, all of us as South Africans, Post Bank will be the biggest bank in South Africa and will be utilized to address the interests of us. Now, we are not going to allow anyone to go and misrepresent resolutions of the ANC. The role of ministers deployed in government by President Ramaphosa, it is to implement resolutions of the ANC. Anything else outside implementing resolution of the ANC, they must be charged of ill-discipline and be removed from those positions. We can't afford to people that the ANC resolve this and develop a manifesto. We go out and mobilize for that manifesto. The people of South Africa vote for that manifesto. Then individuals decide to go to government and implement what they think they can do for them and their friends and their families. We're saying that enough is enough, and the only way to restore the confidence of our people is to fully implement the resolutions of the ANC. And as the Youth League, we believe that if the ANC can fully implement the resolutions of the ANC, there will be no need for any political party in South Africa, because all the issues will be covered and the people of South Africa will all follow the African National Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Since I'm not seeing any follow-up,
Oh, I will say it.
And then would you support the EFF
Okay.
when they propose a law? Automatic registration.
automatic registration of...
That's fine. Let me just get all the questions. It's the last one, eh? Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh. Yes.
Just on Johannesburg, you mentioned the name of Helen Zille now. Oh, sorry. Just on Johannesburg, you mentioned the name of Helen Zille now. I just want to check, what's stopping the Youth League of fielding a young candidate to really regain support of the young people here in Johannesburg? And then we saw news that just came in now as well, your GNU partner, the DA, its leader, John Steenhuisen, is set to resign tomorrow. Maybe, some comments on that as well, thank you.
One question from me, Mr. Galaji. You're saying that you believe that the ANC should close rank around the mayor, Mr. Dada Morero. Could you rate the mayor's performance? I'm assuming some of you guys live in Joburg. Could you rate the mayor's performance, maybe from 1 to 10 even? Thank you.
Yes, you can carry.
Good afternoon, President Malachi and the leadership of the ANC Youth League. My name is Mposo Kharume from the Gauteng Times, and I want to actually reflect on your comments now in your responses about the youth taking over the leadership roles in government. But now I want to go back to a long-standing ANC Youth League stance of actually having a certain percentage of representation in Parliament and in governance in general. I think it moved from 40% of women representation in the early 2000s, and then it went on to 40% of youth representation, and then I think under your leadership it went up to 50%. So I want to find out if you are making headway in that as you anticipate to take over these positions of government to fix youth matters. Thank you.
Let's move the mic this side.
I have a question now.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yes,
You can give it to her.
President Abigail Fasaki once again from Gauteng Times. We've heard about, fees must fall. We've seen this narrative. We've seen this motion. But what difference actually will a march make? Like, what is the ANC Youth League's plan intact with getting rid of debt, prehistoric debt, getting, actually really assisting struggling students and those who really want to be educated? What is the actual plan? Thank you.
Again from Journal News. I just want to ask you on the issue of the Post Bank. Currently, the Post Bank is in charge of, distributing the social grants to recipients. Do you think that, and they're failing actually, because there are people who are really struggling to get their, their monies when it's month end. It's a mess. It's a mess, and it's not a rumor. It's a fact that is happening. Do you think that the ANC, do you think that Post Bank, being the state-owned bank, will be able to deliver? Because currently, as it is failing. Thank you.
Yeah, those are the questions. The SG can just come in to do that one of Moshapalo.
Thank you, spokesperson, and thank you, President. Greetings to the media, to members of the media. The Moshapalong program is the program of the Youth League, and we have launched it, I think it's 3 or 4 years back. So to include young people in governance and in participating in areas of responsibilities. And we are going to elections, and we have launched the Pitamukawa Brigade in the last elections, and we are going to launch the Pitamukawa Brigade volunteers to go to the ground. And we believe that some of the people that are our councillors might have been slow, maybe because of old age. Sometimes they are unable to reach our people when it comes to service delivery. So we are saying that all our young people, all our members must go down and avail themselves to participate as councillors, as councillor candidates in the next coming local government elections. So that is, we start now so that they then start forming part of the processes of government from that level, so that we fast track service delivery to our people. I think that was that. And also, ANC does not need to go and fetch veterans to become mayors. Veterans can serve as advisors to the leadership that is there and the mayors that are there. But we have capacity. We have a lot of young people that are capable to become mayors. We have a lot of young people that are capable to become councillors. And veterans, our veterans had their fair chance. They have led, they were mayors, they were councillors in their time, and we believe that it's time now for the new generation to come and take over the ANC, the leadership of the ANC and governance, and take South Africa further. Thank you so much.
I think on the issue of Mochapalong, the SG has answered. On the issue of the registration of youth, automatically cannot be registered, or everyone who's a South African citizen, I don't think it's a bad idea. We must not always oppose everything from the opposition, so that because most of the people on the day of voting, that is the day they want to run around and go and vote. In most cases, when we mobilize them to go and register to vote, they're not doing that. But on the day when there's a hype of let's go and vote, a lot of young people, women, and old people who have not registered, I think it's something that we can engage on. and engage the IEC on it and check if it's implementable. If not, I think it's something that, as the Youth League, we're ready to support. It's a good program that we can support. On the issue of young mayors, obviously, we will want young mayors everywhere. That's why we're contesting what councillors, as the SGF said, because we want to take charge. We've resolved that we want to take charge of our own future. We're no longer delegating it. We've achieved a lot on the last list. It is not enough, but from the 3-4 names we had when some of us were in parliament to moving to 18 names, it's progress, and I think it must be recorded as such, and we believe we'll do better now. That's why we want the ANC to win elections, so that we don't inherit an organization that it's out of power. It can't change the lives of our people because we'll be dispositioned. Now, on representation, I think it's something that we're on it. On the issue of the progress on access to education, look, on debts, some of the monies that are taken back from SITAs can be utilized to close that historic debt, because a lot of billions are taken back. Now, it's a matter of political will and good leadership. Now, it can be resolved. SITAs can assist that process. That's why we're saying that the issue of SITAs, it must not just be a small thing. It must be something that is taken to the NYDA, because the NYDA's core responsibility is youth development. And the majority of people who are affected are young people. Now, if it's not where it's supposed to be, and I think we'll have engagement with the leadership and the president so that we can move these SITAs to focus there so that we're able to monitor everything that happens in those areas. I still don't know why the Department of Youth and Children and People with Disability exist. No one can give me that answer. How do you create a department of so many people? Because the biggest population in this country is women, is youth, it's children, and people with disability. Now, then you give it, you don't give it a budget. Now, it's just a fronting department. They're telling about set aside. If we're serious about creating that department, why are you putting the set aside of youth and women in other departments? Why don't you move all of that budget and put to a mandate department that is responsible for youth, children? Now, I'm just saying all of this in a political will, and we're calling upon the president to do that urgently. If that department must exist, then give it a budget to resolve the socio-economic problems that are facing our people of South Africa. Now, failure to do that, then just close that department, because it means there is no political will to resolve issues of youth and women and children. So that we find other ways of resolving those issues, because that department then becomes a front and becomes a useless department that is not doing what it's supposed to do. Because you meet the Minister of Women and Children, she's always crying. She's crying like people who she's supposed to represent. The youth is crying, the minister is crying, women are crying, the minister is crying. It's a crying festival in this country. Now, we can't have a crying festival here. Everyone crying. We want implementation, we want work to be done. Now, the days of crying have ended. You know, having ministers, you know, we can't, it's like in Bizo. When you meet with these ministers, they cry like they're not in government. Now, those things must end. We're here to make sure that we're monitoring and those things are implemented. Now, this year we're going to be very busy because we have a responsibility to defend the base. Now, we're the ones who must go to the youth and tell them to vote for the ANC, and they're going to tell us why, and we must have answers. And they must see us in action resolving their own problems. We're not going to have a youth league that just sits and engages society through press briefing. We're going to be a mass-based activist youth. If you can check our NEC, we've put everyone there that we know that they've got the energy. We've got everyone inside. We've got Mahoshi, we've got people with disability, we've got the Afrikaner community, we've got everyone is represented in our NEC. Now, we're going to be very active and to assist. Every time the ANC is under attack, is the first line of defense of the ANC is the ANC Youth League, nobody else. Now, that responsibility, we're not going to delegate it to anybody else, because history is going to judge the Youth League if the ANC perishes and the people of South Africa suffer. Thanks. On the resignation of people of DA, I will not know. I'm not a member of the DA. I'm not aware. But anyway, what I can inform you that the DA is starting to learn that what happens when they take state power. They are accusing each other of corruption. Now, we thought they were saying the ANC is corrupt, they are better. But every day they are fighting for tenders. Then the DA is a festival of corrupt males, white males, led by their grandmother, Helen Zille. Again, South Africa can see who they are. Because they used to lie and say that I think it was good to be in the government of national unity to the DA so that South Africa can expose them. Because what they are fighting for in the DA, they are not fighting for credit cards or food by Steinhazen. They are fighting for corruption of environment. They are selling land everywhere. Public works, every day they are selling land to white people every day. White men, now, than fighting to regain the land to our people, they are regressing every day. Now, I was saying that the president must watch them closely, must act on them, but it's good that the president appointed them so that the people of South Africa can see who really the DA is. The DA is a racist political party that represents the agenda of protecting the gains of apartheid and is not for democracy and the people of South Africa. That's why when they're in government, they do exactly what they're mandated to do. They're not doing anything different. It is their job as the DA to do that. It's like the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal. The IFP in KwaZulu-Natal, since we have been in office, they've been doing what we know them for doing, collapsing departments, being corrupt, selling sex for jobs. That is the IFP. Now, these political parties must know it's only the ANC that can resolve the problem of South Africa. Now, without the ANC, no one can do it. With all our mistakes, we'll still put South Africa first. And the ANC has got a platform to hold employees accountable. There is no one who can do anything outside what the ANC is doing. That's why we're re-emphasizing that those who are in government not implementing resolutions of the ANC, the president must act on them, because we don't have people who are freelancing the government. We want people who are going to implement resolutions of the African National Congress. Thanks. On the post bank, look, there was a big scandal here of ABSA and the manipulation of a rent. None of you here, media, said ABSA must close down. Instead, some of you, if I can check your banks, your accounts, you are still banking with ABSA. Now, we can't say post bank must be closed down on the basis of a small man administration if it's there. Now, we're saying that it must be capacitated enough to deliver to our people. We're not going to close this on those bases that and behave like those other banks of the cartel are perfect, they have no mistake. Instead, those other banks are charging interest on our people more than what they should charge. Now, no one is speaking about that. No one is speaking about the corruption that they're doing of stealing from the poor every day. Those banks through their interest systems and all of that. Now, we're saying Post Bank is a bank of the people of South Africa. It's a bank of the poorest, and it must be protected and be supported and capacitated enough to be better than any other bank. We can't retreat from it because of the we know that it's sabotaged every day. So it's presented by on the media that the Post Bank can't be a bank to resolve the people's problems. We know the agenda of the cartels of not wanting Post Bank to succeed, working with some elements in Treasury to make sure that they make sure that they protect the gains of apartheid and reverse the gains of freedom. We will not allow that. We will fight until those matters are resolved. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That will conclude the end of the session. Thank you.
Oh, for 2000, SABC. We don't photo here. We can do that photo thing here.